All right, our guest today is such a fit to the Aliens Love Earth project that it would be a crime not to invite them for a chat. They describe their music as a fluid blend of, this is really true, alien pop, ambient electronic, experimental and alternative soundscapes. And last week they released their brand new conceptual EP, Incomplete Territory. Now, reason enough for us to invite them over. Please welcome into our galaxy, iNKOGNiiTO. All right, iNKOGNiiTO, thank you so much for being up for a chat. How are you doing today?
What's up? Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm also very good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to hear a bit about the story because you got like new EP, fresh EP out last week,
Yep,
Incomplete Territory.
yep.
So I'm really curious to hear like how that shaped out and up and how you got to that point, but also how you got to the point where you are now as an artist, basically, because I bet that wasn't an overnight thing. Yeah, and I'm curious, gonna talk a bit about Earth and like what your connection to that is, since I see a little friend behind you. That's definitely not from this planet. So yeah, I'm curious for that. I think we can have a good talk about it.
Yeah, I've got the right support around me right now for sure. Yeah, it's cool to be here. I mean, going straight into it, yeah, incomplete territory. It's been like
Yeah,
a year and a bit of some work and like a lot of cool collaborations and a lot of energy input into it. And so it's nice to be in a position where I can just sit in it, just gliding out in its own
yeah.
release form from like sitting on it for a while. But yeah, I'd say I guess the best way to start with incomplete territory is
Mhm.
its visual image. So it's
Yeah.
basically based around like a spiral portal, which kind of like represents the unknown source of dread and the telling of an inner turmoil that just goes into nothing. And yeah, I just had a lot of spiral visuals in my mind, like during the time when I was putting the EP together, and it kind of started to make sense in the connection with this visual of a portal. And I have a music video for one of my songs that we'll be talking about in a bit. And there's spirals in that, and there's a portal that iNKOGNiiTO is running from. And so I kind of ran with that with this visual, and it started to connect a lot of other things in terms of the other songs. And yeah, that's how Incomplete Territory started. And so you probably, if you've seen the artwork, you'll see the spiral in the
Yeah.
artwork of the EP, and that kind of like stamps the main like visual element of Incomplete Territory.
It's so interesting. And like, did you say that this came just up as like a vision, or how was that moment then? If it
Yeah, I
just pops
mean,
up?
I draw a lot of like you know, if you're just like sat somewhere and you're doodling, you might have a random pen and like piece of paper,
Mm,
and like people always have their version of like a doodle. And like
mm.
I would like to just like draw like a flat mouth face with just spiral eyes.
Ah,
And
uh-huh.
there was something that like clicked further with spiral for me, and I just kept drawing spirals. So like usually when I'm doodling now, I'll just like draw a little spiral and then like go off.
So
Yeah, so it
if I
just
get you right, it's like basically visual art that inspires your music then. So
yeah,
in that
yeah,
way.
it kind of like inspired the visual, but also just the concept of like a spiral can like you can look at it in so many different ways, whether it's just something that kind of like going back to something or going forward into something completely new, or representing an unknown or something going back in on itself. So you're kind of going nowhere, round and round in circles, and just like but also matching that with the symbol of a portal. And that's kind of what clicked for me, is that I was thinking about a lot about portals and the connection with my concept of incognito. And so I wanted to represent that through a specific narrative for this EP, which is like a futuristic nomad spy that's
Yeah.
kind of like venturing between different situations, obscure and odd, but in just daily mundane life. And that then like alludes to like extraterrestrial elements and what those things that incognito is navigating, are they a target, are they the solution? And it kind of like all wraps around this like phrase I came up with
Yeah.
that's like attached to the EP, which is mundane absurdism, which is like
Mm,
the idea of just daily absurd things that like people and anyone's probably gone through. Like, I don't know if you have any that come to your mind, but you've probably been in situations where you see something and you feel like you're the only one that saw that or experienced that, and you're like, did that really just happen? And kind of
yeah.
like
But
leaning into that in like the mundane. So not just that was a weird day, but that was a weird day and I was just like drinking a cup of tea, looking out the window.
Yeah, yeah. Like something like it was actually a very normal situation, but you felt very out of place, you mean then? Or
Either. So it could like be a normal situation, but you feel out of place, or it could just be like, I don't know, you could be sat in um like an office or waiting to go to the dentist or something, and you might see someone come through and they might have like,
mm,
I don't know, like you might see someone walk by with like a pet raccoon or something, and you're like, oh, that's so random.
wait.
Like, what just happened? Like, just anything that can happen in situations where you're like, that was a really random situation, and but it was just intersected into like mundane daily life that like anyone could experience. So yeah, it's kind of like
That's
leaning
really
into
cool.
like the odd, obscure moments in daily living and just taking it in like it's just part of the everyday anyway.
That's really cool. I'm just curious then, like, how would you then, like, kind of describe what you do creatively? Because I think I would do really short if I say you're a musical artist or a musician, because you have obviously the whole visual concept around it, but also the storytelling and things like that. So how would you describe that, what you do yourself then, if you
Yeah,
to
for
fit
sure.
it in?
I mean, yeah, like I'm a bit of a wanderer generally. I have a very visual brain, so like often when I'm listening to music as a listener, not just a creator, like I'll always have visuals attached to what I'm listening to. And so
Mm,
the same goes for like when I'm creating something, there's always a visual attached to it, and I'm usually already thinking about the music video before it's even created, and is there a story attached to this, or is it very abstract? And it feels very innate to me that it's kind of already there and I just want to bring that into existence. Or sometimes it's like, I don't know how I'd bring that into existence, but I feel like I could show it in more of an abstract or subtle way. But yeah, I also like the idea of people not just with my visuals, but listening to my lyrics and coming to their own conclusions of what they're hearing. Sometimes maybe taking it literally or sometimes not, and resonating with maybe what it means for them.
mm. And if you think about like how that evolved throughout the years, if you like look at Little Incognito, so to say, was music then always a thing that was like present or at the forefront, or did that also very organically move between different expression forms?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, little incognito.
It sounds like you have a rap alias now or something.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wait to find out that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's funny because they were actually making this EP. There was a lot of like childhood nostalgic attachments that I had with creating this. Like, I was very much a TV kid. Like, I was just
Mm.
like watched a lot of TV. Um, Courage the Cowardly Dog was like one of my favorite cartoons. I used to watch a bit of Goosebumps as well, and those are some things that like really like re-inspired me on this project, particularly visually, tapping into those like nostalgic childhood self vibes and feelings. Yeah, I used to sing a lot like as a kid, like not just like singing to sound good, but I just liked the feeling of it. And so yeah, I'd always just make up random tunes to very, very like irrelevant things, but just like if I was learning something, like a tune would happen in my head just to make sure it goes in. So that those
Mm.
there's those sides of things where I always really enjoyed singing, and so doing that now feels like it's kind of like in line with like multiple past versions of myself. Um,
Mm.
but being able to like sing on my own terms, in terms of like being able to like make my own lyrics and find my own tunes to them that aren't maybe conventional or typical to like how um it feels like songs should be.
Mm.
I like to be able to like lean into how something feels true to me over like, oh, a chorus needs to be here now, or like, oh, I should really put like a verse here for it to seem more succinct to an ear that would like expect something else.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah.
It's something I wrote down actually, like the elements of surprise that are in there.
Cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So
like the way you put that.
that worked out for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I'm curious, like if you say that you were as a kid already like making songs to, for example, what you were studying or like everyday things, were you then also like really early already like musically or creative, or do you know at what point you went from just enjoying it to also expressing through it, or was that very young already?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been creative. I've always been like taking things in and like regurgitating them through like other means, but I think I was never like I feel like I would say probably honestly like the last 4 years I felt the most creative in terms of like when I first came up with iNKOGNiiTO, it was during a time like quite a dark time in my life, and I like always loved the idea of like making music, but I never really knew how I would want to make music. I played the piano and like would sing like just like do covers or whatever like in my room to myself.
Mm.
But like there's like particular artists that like slowly unlocked for me like, oh, I like how you do that. If I ever made music, this is like activating a curiosity for me. But I'd say like what truly activated that was during this particular time I came up with the concept of iNKOGNiiTO, which is related to like a person that has forgotten everything and lost all of their memory and any recollection of their past. And then the energy that's like attached to them getting a flashback. So every now and again they get a flashback.
Mm.
And the energy created in this flashback, which is the visual almost that takes them back to a different time, actually like ignites this energy that connects them into a different timeline. And so they glitch into another timeline. And so every time they get a flashback, this continues to happen. And every timeline they visit, they kind of subconsciously gather information from each timeline. And so slowly they start to realize that they know things that other people don't, and they can sense things that are going to happen that other people can't see because they've experienced these things before. But technically they've never happened because they're all associated with different timelines. And so that kind of is what like really resonated a moment for me where I was like, oh, this is like a story and a format and a foundation that I feel like will build my sonic identity and how I want to express myself and create my music and allow how I feel on the inside to show on the outside. Because I'd say before that, like 2020, I felt like how I felt internally didn't match me externally.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it's something with iNKOGNiiTO clicked where it just aligned. And yeah, it's pushed me forward in a lot of ways that I feel like personally I would have chosen to keep myself to myself, but iNKOGNiiTO's like pushed me forward into spaces that allow me to embrace dark and light and just accept like a full scope of things in a way of just balance and allowing like the darker parts of me to like exist because they're part of me, but at the same time taking things as they are and just accepting them, embracing the idea of failing on my own terms instead of feeling like there's this push to need to like get to this like place of being better or like being good all the time, and feeling like that's a way that we're supposed to reach to when really it's just like we already are, and that's cool, that's okay.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's such a like. Yeah, I don't know how that feels for you, but if I hear you say it, I can imagine you feel so much gratitude to that project as well, that then
Sure.
is there because it brings so much more than, just simply making a song, or it's like, or making art, or it's like yeah, pretty deep level of expression than what I hear back, and that's but also helping you develop further and feeling better, which is not only expressing but also developing then on top of it, if I get you right. That's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
100% for sure. Yeah. And iNKOGNiiTO definitely comes from a very deep place for me where it's like, it really, when I think about outstretching it to like other people, it really is for like the people that feel alone and feel like they're the only ones in situations. And it's like that thing in your head where you're like, I know I'm not the only one, but I just feel like I'm the only one.
Mm.
and being able to reach and feeling met in like being presented with iNKOGNiiTO and just being like, oh, I'm not the only one. And yeah, there's like a lot of like moments that like I felt in that, like I very much relate to being a loner and being able to like find like the other loners that have that in common, but also particularly like Black and brown people who like have maybe experienced that particularly like in environments where they felt like the minority, and being able to like find home in togetherness with other like people of color and other people of color creatives that
No.
can like find that commonality and not feeling like a minority with each other anymore. And so there's that like other lens of like racial awareness that I like to keep in mind with iNKOGNiiTO, and just the intentionality of just the importance of like who is in mind and what I'm talking about in particular, and like being intentional with who I'm reaching out to as well.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
important to me.
Uh, it's really beautiful to hear that there's like such a, yeah, true, yeah, it's like a true story behind it and not just, as I said, like if I hear you say it, then it's not just an expression, but like, yeah, that's such a deep-rooted meaning, so to say. If I hear you talk about it, that's like, yeah, touching to hear, I gotta say. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool.
Um, if I just think about Nowhere, for example,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
if you then connect it to what you're just talking about, like, do you have like a particular part of the song that is very special or that like speaks out this, that you had like a development moment on or like a deep expression moment
Yeah.
that you're willing to share, of
Yeah,
course.
good question. Let me take a moment to like take that in. Um,
Ah,
yeah, there's always different lines with Nowhere that I really like to like refer back to. Like I really enjoyed writing the lyrics for that song. But I
mm,
think right now, like two come to mind. One in relation to what we're talking about. I'd say with Nowhere, like it's kind of like a song that it's meant to be like playing with just like this opposite and contradiction, like everywhere is nothing, being
mm,
nowhere, like good is bad, bad is good, like everything's just flipped upside down, all in one kind of like melting pot. And I like to imagine worlds that are a bit like that. But yeah, with some lyrics, like one I'd say I make a wash up look pretty. Really like referring back to that lyric, just because like I feel like a wash up all the time, and like I kind of like finding empowerment in it and just being like I'm a wash up because I'm a wash up on my own terms, and I'm a wash up but I'll make it look good. And so there's just something like
just for me as like I'm not a native English speaker, like a wash up is just like a mess then kinda or
yes, yeah. I can
yeah,
to
okay.
explain to you like a wash up is like a bit of a bum, like someone that's just got nowhere, or like is deemed
Mm,
like successful or hasn't like got anywhere in life, is maybe drifting.
mm,
So yeah. It would like be termed as like a negative thing. Someone might be like, I'm a bit of a wash up right now.
yeah, yeah.
I'm maybe in a wash up point in my life. Like people might say something like that. But yeah, I very much relate to it. But I like to find empowerment in it, and just like, well, like at least it's mine to own. Like I'll take it, I'll own it. And like I won't like determine it as like negative or positive, but just let it be, and just how I feel. So yeah, making wash up look pretty. I just like that line. It
Mm,
reminds me a bit of like one of um the lyrics that in one of Childish Gambino's songs.
mm,
This is America. And
mm.
he goes like, I'm so pretty.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
like,
there's something in that that I was like, oh, I want to use that same energy in Nowhere. Um,
mm,
and so it's like it's not really meant to be like masculine or feminine either. Like with it being like the word pretty, it's just kind of meant to like represent like, make it look good. Yeah. And then the other lyric I'd probably say is there's a line in the second verse where I sing, everywhere is nothing, but I'd rather know the agony. Everybody's lost because existing doesn't come for free. And yeah, it is something I like, I think like going back into like the mundane living, like being like a young adult, and you got to pay bills now, and like it's always something like that I'll always come back to on the regular of just like, if I just wanted to stop and get away from everything and just like hide, like I can't do that because I still have to pay to exist. And the fact I have to pay to exist, and like right now I'm still having to pay more just to exist, is just crazy to me. And so like that's kind of like what I think about when I, especially at the moment, like with that lyric of just like existing, having to be paid for,
Mm.
and like how like debilitating that can be, and how it's just like, what the hell? But everyone's going through it.
Yeah.
Especially like, yeah, with like cost of living and stuff going up, it kind of like resonates in those terms. But like there's other formats as well with like what's going on with people and in the
Mm.
world right now that people could like also associate with other things, which I'd like open that out to as well. Like it's not just tied to that particular situation, but for me, like that's kind of what I go back to. Yeah.
I was just wondering in when you talked about the wash up thing, like being a wash up, making it look good. Is that something that you have in there because you found that more difficult before and now you're better in dealing with it? Or because I'm curious, like it's for me at least, very relatable thing that I feel like kind of with the years I get better at it, but I can't really pin down why, if it's just like the exposure kind of therapy that you're just like, whatever,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
still
yeah.
living, it's fine. Or what is that for you? Do you have like an idea on what makes it easier for you to deal with that?
Yeah, it's so true. That's I really like that you asked that question because like what I was saying before with like when incognito and when I came up with the concept, like it activated like a big switch point for me. But
Yeah.
I felt like I chose how I wanted to move forward rather than like, yeah, I felt like I just made a choice and I went with it regardless of what I I thought the outcome might be. And I through that time, like I've consistently felt like a wash up, but when I mention it, say if I'm speaking to like friends or bring it up anywhere, people's automatic response is just like, no, no, you're not. Like, but like
Mm.
it was just a feeling for me. Like I didn't attach it with like anything positive or negative other than like it really just feels like a reality right now. And so it kind of like felt like a pushback of like, well, maybe I'd want to own that. And maybe I want to be okay with saying that without feeling like, without realizing like, obviously people are just trying to encourage you, like, no, you're not because you're more than that. But like, to me, it was just kind of like, but if I am that, like, can't I determine it for myself anyway? Because it's just a feeling and it's just like, it doesn't mean it's dictating my reality outside of like what I choose. Um,
Mm.
and so like, I always go back between 2 points of like choices and endings, choices and endings. Endings are really important to me, and like what I choose, like in regards to like what I'm in, is also important to me. And so it was just one of those things, like choices and endings, like, okay, well, I choose this. So yeah. And so that lyric, I make a wash up look pretty, was just kind of like me stamping on that, like doubling down on it, like, oh, I'm not a wash up. No, I really am. But I make it look
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
my right to pick that, to be that. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
If I want to. Yeah. That's
Mhm.
strong. Cool. Yeah, I would love to listen to the full track and then just, yeah, we can chat a bit after. But I'm curious
Cool.
to hear it now in full. So I'm just gonna put it on and then we can chat on after.
Nice. Let's do it.
Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. I've made the wrong side of history and learned to live in a mystery. The way you spoke so distinctive, keep it to myself cause no one else sees it. Can't be defined by a mistake. Strapping it down for a big break. Loosen my noose for a new change. What I would do to just forget. See, I'm place here is lost. All out, been held back so tightly, couldn't figure it out till it hit me. I make a worship look pretty, most times the people don't get me. Living in the grey, there used to be in sun, I try make it through the day, but I can't always wait. Oh, sometimes the highest point feels so low, sometimes the highest thoughts make you low. Everywhere is nothing, but I'd rather know the agony. Everybody's lost, cause existing doesn't come for free. Getting tired of now, it's about time my press freeze. I'm such a loner, even loneliness is sick of me. One step forward, 5 steps back. One step forward, 5 steps back. One step forward, 5 steps back. Wait till they get me.
Yes. I really love that trumpet at the end. I remember when I heard it the first time, and it's like one of those
Yeah.
things that you really don't expect, kind of.
Yeah. So actually,
Yeah.
that horn alludes to the first notes of the last song on the EP. So it's the same tune. And I wanted to like put a little Easter egg in one of the songs to like allude to the ending of
Like hint back a bit.
yeah, exactly, yeah. I'm
So
curious
cool.
to know what lyrics stand out to you and Nowhere though.
I was gonna say, like, what I find very interesting feeling wise is that when I listen to it, is that I get this feeling of it feels very chill and calm. I know this is more mood wise, but that is what really stood out to me. Like, it feels very calm and a bit mystical, but at the same time, it feels rushed, and there is like so much happening in terms of like little ear candy and things like that. And it's interesting that it gives me a chill vibe, yet at the same time, also this feeling of rush, kinda.
Cool. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's really for me like what stands out. And I also gotta say that I normally have those kind of things standing out easier. Like I honestly for lyrics need to hear things a few times because maybe also because it's not my native language, but I do get like if you really like those lyrics that you mentioned before we listen to it, like the way you put them in the song are also like these little how do you say that? Like spotlights almost because you created a lot of room around the vocals to like make the vocals really pop out there, right? That's what because I really heard them like pop out.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
What is your native language, by the way?
I'm Dutch. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. So I do talk a lot of English, but I think it's a combination of things. I played guitar a lot since I was really young. So I think I always tuned my ear with the years more to like melodies and harmonies in sound and layers in a song and stuff and less to lyrics. I think I always kind of had that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's always the cool thing with music, of like, especially when either listening to it and sharing just a song you like with someone else, or like sharing like something you personally created, like the way people can bring different parts alive. just through like people experiencing it differently is always really cool.
I agree. I think, yeah, art in general, like for you, of course, now about your song, hearing that different from different people, but I think with art in general, that one person can look at a painting, for example, and
Yeah.
see like the lines and how the lines are positioned and how they like contrast with each other, and another person sees the colors and another sees
Yeah.
like a certain figure coming out of it. Yeah, I can imagine. Um,
I have another question.
yeah.
How do you say alien in Dutch?
I think we also just say aliens
Okay.
and alien, but I think if you translate it to Dutch, what I think no one does because it sounds not so cool as in English, I think you would have ruimtewezen.
Ruimtewezen.
Ruimtewezen, yeah.
Okay. And what about how do you
Where
say mundane in Dutch?
mundane, I think it's a bit like the odd everyday feeling, right?
Yeah, mundane, like, yeah, the everyday, the daily, the typical everyday, the
Let me check.
usual.
Here they say it is werelds, but that means
Werelds.
worldly, and I don't think that's true. It's more like everyday,
Mm,
like alledaags. Yeah,
alledaags.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And how do you say absurdism in Dutch?
Absurd. Yeah, absurd is like the Dutch word for absurd, like weird.
Okay. Yeah.
When something's really like a bit weird or a bit,
Weird. Yeah.
who does that? That's absurd. Kinda, yeah, absurd.
Okay. Absurd. So there's ruimtewezen,
Ruimtewezen.
allega. What was the other? Allegaar.
Ja, alledaags.
Alledaags. And absurd. Incomplete territory. Ruimtewezen, alledaags, absurd.
Yeah. In how many languages are you already collecting these
I
territory things?
this you are the first, but
Wow,
yeah, maybe
I feel honored.
something's been unlocked right now though.
I mean, Aliens Love Earth, it's like, yeah, that's why we had to have you as well for a chat, right? Like it fits. There is a connection. That's really cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, for this track, like how, because you said it connected to these things. It's also a thing I wrote down that I wanted to ask about, because I understood also from what you said and what I read that you had different themes, but then you figured out at some point that they kind of all connect to one like core. How do you say it? Like a core feeling or a core message. Like the further we drift, the more we gain ground.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Another good question. Again, just the same with like I shared with the wash up thing. There's just something about like being in a position, whether it's like society or like internalized messaging of like a person has to be at a certain point at a certain time of their life, which equals to a certain level of success, whether that's at X age, you should be doing this, or whether it's like if you've already started something and then you've changed, like maybe changed a job to do something completely different and you've started from the beginning, like maybe you're supposed to be here, but you're here, like this idea of like supposed to or like should or like what's right, and like kind of abolishing that, but at the same time, like the people that might be used as examples of like, oh, like they've kind of dropped off in life, or like, oh, they kind of just like lost their way a bit, but just
Yeah,
like,
they're wash up now.
yeah, appealing to that idea of like, but when you do drift, like you do gain more ground. And so it's that idea of like getting lost can be like the most liberating thing, because you learn how to determine things in your own way. You learn how to like find that sense and like knowing of like, yeah, no, that's not for me, regardless of what I see like multiple people telling me or multiple people doing, even if they're not telling you. And so, yeah, for me, like the further we drift, the more we gain ground kind of alludes to that. In incomplete territory, like we can constantly feel incomplete, or like this idea of like drowned by never reaching a potential, but like you can just throw that out the window and it doesn't exist anymore. And the more we feel like we're existing less, like maybe we're taking up more space through doing that. And yeah, it can just like filter out all the things that, you know, maybe we feel like we shouldn't be feeling or experiencing, but they're there anyway. And yeah,
Yeah.
just determining your own way through that, I guess.
Yeah. So a bit like, how do you say, like standing up against like the expectations and the things that, you know, are a bit standardized or like expected in our lives, and
Yeah.
the pressure that it can lay on you as well.
Yeah. And not even just like standing up against it, actually just like throwing it out the window, just like it's
That it's
not,
so subjective as
it's
well. Like,
yeah, yeah,
what is
yeah.
success and what do you need right now to feel good and things like that, or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Like that it's subjective, but it's also like yours to subject to. And so
mm,
like what we take in once we've received them, like in our bodies, like they're ours now. And so like what do we
mm,
take responsibility for in our own self? And acknowledging, yeah, in that and being okay with diverting to maybe like what like it seems like everyone else is doing.
mm.
Just determining your own path in your own system and way.
Do you remember when that connection kind of clicked, that insight, where you were, how you felt? Because it's a super strong sentence if I hear it. So how did you feel when that popped in?
Yeah, yeah. You ask good questions in relation to like feelings, I guess. I just remember when I thought of Incomplete Territory. I actually remember it very clearly because I was on a call with one of my producers, Jericho, and big up Jericho because they did great on a lot of the songs on this EP. And I remember coming up with the phrase Incomplete Territory, and it was at the beginning of last year. And it just felt like, oh, this resonates, but I don't even know what it means yet, but it just really resonates. And I guess now what we've just been talking about, yeah, it was like these are the words that I'm describing now to the initial feeling I had that just felt like it just always feels incomplete. But like, am I even trying to complete it? Or do I just feel like I'm supposed to be completing it? And what is it? What is it? Quotation marks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just kind of just felt like an abolition experience with the more things that just felt like maybe things like that I'd internalized that I was just like, yeah, I'm kind of tired of holding on to these things now.
Yeah, I do like the sentence a lot because it shifts indeed what I hear you say then as well. I think the goal not being like the goal, but kind of the journey, like
Mhm.
that, because it's like if the drifting is gaining basically, then
Yeah.
the goal is to be drifting or something.
Uh-huh.
I think that's something that I felt like in the last year or a couple of years a lot, that
Really?
yeah, I felt a lot like, okay, maybe and that can change whenever I feel like different about it. But now that I feel a bit like, you know, I really like this idea of in life making it my goal to collect as many different experiences and feelings and situations.
Mm.
If I don't like them, I can decide to not enter those where I can. But I feel like it's a bit of my right now, a bit of my feeling of wealth is like to collect as many different situations and meet different people, try out different things, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool way of looking
So,
at it. Yeah.
yeah, therefore I really like the sentence as well. Like, connects a bit to that feeling that I had. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, if you think about this message, because I had another track from you that I would love to listen to, Satellites.
Yeah.
If you think about like this core message, how does it kind of connect to that track? If you think about it.
Satellites.
Yeah.
Um, this message we've just been talking about.
Mm.
I'd say everything that feels like built up in terms of like failure or like not meeting a mark, like where is that voice coming from, and like what does it look like to stand like face to face in front of the voice that feels like it's trying to hold you down or keep you down. That's what Satellites is about, looking at revenge in the face, or that thing that like is trying to keep you back and like consistently like prevent you from actually stepping forward in your own choice and way.
Cool. Let's have a listen to Satellites. I will not add anything to that.
Got that feeling inside, acting like you never lied. It's a death that you tried, I can see it in your eyes. Got that feeling inside, acting like you never lied. It's a death that you tried, I can see it in your eyes. Never thought that I'd be back here, and I'm feeling like I'm cursed. In a space no one can reach me, and it's stretching further and further. Even satellites can't feel it, and I'm dealing with this on my own. It's seeming dark inside, it's dark inside, it's dark inside, it's dark inside. An eviction too strong, wasn't moving in my tones. Counting with the stars behind, watching time but reverse. Obstructed by the best of me, is it a gift to the worst? You could say you tried to end me, but I think I got there first. I've been in this place for too long. Smoke is rising, the resentment's on fire. When time complicates moving on, especially when it kills and denies. If you could find a way, would you move back to the door? Why is pretend it's crime when the rain starts to dissolve? So come back again, 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 back again. Feeling inside, acting like you never lied. It's a death that you tried, I can see it in your eyes. It's the look of despise that has set the little drive behind the suit and the tie. Waiting for a pure decline, and the fate was defined. All the sights I still deny, just a serve to revise. I can see it in your eyes.
Yes, I really love how they are like so cohesive, all the tracks on the album, but there or on the EP, but they do have like different energies. Like there's some like chiller, more like dreaming away kind of tracks, and then there are some that have that, and then like the glitchy switch ups. Yeah, really really cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and another thing I also found very surprising to hear
Yeah.
from you is that you're launching your first merchandise for which you reused all DVD covers.
I did, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my t-shirt I'm wearing right now is actually one of the t-shirts that not the only t-shirt, but it basically says, it's hard to see, I believe in
It's
aliens.
blurry. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in aliens because I am one. It's like blurry on like when you look far away, but when it's close up, you see the phrase.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so that's
I might need get one.
I'll be putting it
Obviously.
online at some point, so
Yeah.
I'll let you know when that up.
Let me know.
Well, thank you. That
Yeah.
really, like everything that is made from it is going back into my music, so it's all just funding my music.
Yeah. I'll make sure to drop the link to the, if you have it online, send it on, and we'll add the link below the
I'll sick,
description as well.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I believe in
Mhm.
aliens because I am one is like the phrase that's attached with the whole EP. And yeah, I made like ethically sourced and like organic cotton. Like I really wanted to make sure like if I'm putting something that exists like physically, like I wanted it to feel like it's actually like not like contributing to like anything that I just like keeps the planet like back in some ways. Like I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
best way to put it, but like I want to know that at least if I'm putting something into existence, it's like I like to know that it's at least having like a positive contribution to the planet, because otherwise I just feel like I'm just like fueling out like much
Yeah.
and just like I'm just not as into that. But I do like clothing that communicates, and so like having something that's a phrase that people can wear and just reuse, but it's like from a good place. Like that's just, you know, it's just it just is like
It's beautiful because you're basically saying if I put something into existence, I don't want it to take something else out of existence.
yeah,
That's
that's a
really
way better
pretty.
way of putting it. That's exactly what I
Wow.
feel, yeah. And so with the DVD
Wow.
boxes, it was a bit harder because you can't really find like biodegradable DVD boxes, but like I didn't need to buy new DVD boxes. Like I just got some that who knows what DVDs used to be in them, but just
I was gonna say, do they still make them even? Or...
yeah, no, yeah, they
Yeah,
still do.
right?
You can still buy DVDs, which is like which is funny because no one uses DVDs now, but
No.
my dream is to work in a video shop anyway, and who watches videos, but that would be a
Yeah,
great job. Um,
fair point.
yeah. But yeah, the DVDs is basically just a CD and a DVD box. And it's got yeah, reused DVD boxes, and then the CD is like from this company that I found some cool like colorful CDs through. But yeah, just any way that I can like find ways of like reusing or finding something that's recycled or just that's from a position that's like ethically sourced and is like sustainable. Like that's my mentality, especially now with like creating things and creating
Yeah.
physical things, and knowing that if it was to be chucked away, like it's not like contributing any negatively than it was before. But please don't chuck it away.
No, no, but I mean,
The thing, but if you lose it, it's still come from a good place. So
yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that actually because I had that once that supported it like this like indie band and bought something
yeah,
from them at a show, and then I went to a toilet and I think I left like the CD on the toilet roll holder, like the toilet paper holder,
yeah.
and I walked out and I forgot it and I went back and it was gone and I was like sad and the band was gone and I was like, oh no.
Oh,
But if you do that with yours, then you at least know it's not like adding to more trash to the world.
exactly. It's not adding for more. Yeah. Facts. Totally.
That's,
Um,
that's really cool.
but yeah. Before I never had to think in that way before, because just making music, I would be thinking through more of a digital mindset, which is like still where like my values of like I've mentioned with you before that you shared before, but for anyone that hasn't seen me or you before that sees this, like I think in terms of like the environment, the thing that I like to adopt in terms of like through technology and digital, making things through a digital lens is like having a solar punk mindset. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of like a lot of my mentality before like making anything physical was just through that way. Like I don't use AI at all like for any of like my creative things or like AI artwork. And yeah, just even through the like lens of like the EP generally, like the EP artwork's obviously in like this is incognito in this field with like trees behind. And I was actually having a discussion with someone today. We were just thinking about like nature and a connection to nature and like being able to like predict or see the future, like I think is very evident of just like the ways that like the planet's dying in a lot of ways, but how it can just be like very debilitating and like what can be done even just through like many individuals doing something. There's always something else like bringing something back if another thing is bringing a lot of things forward. And
Mm.
there's just something in like having visuals and like scopes being able to be shown of like being connected to nature, and using that as an idea to like imagine alternative futures being connected to nature. And like I like when in terms of like legacy and things, like people like often like I want to be remembered because of XYZ. Like I'm someone that's actually very happy if I'm forgotten, like in like years to come, like if when I don't exist anymore, like if I'm very happy like being forgotten. Like it's not something that like keeps me up at night at all. Just like you can forget me, but like the idea of like if someone stumbled across like the artwork and they can see that visual, like the idea of like legacies on being able to connect with nature through ways that you can see in the past, and that being able to contribute to a connection in the future of like continually reimagining the future in a connection to nature, that like interests me a lot more. And so the idea of like maybe myself, you can forget me, but the idea is attached to like what has been like associated with like the concept of incognito, with what I've said with alternative futurism, which is like what I like to call my music style, like alternative futuristic music, being able to imagine other futures in a connection to nature and people being able to take that on and pass that on and continue that. That's
Mm.
a cool little way of viewing, like alternative way of viewing like connecting with nature to me. And
Mm.
people being able to find and explore that in their own ways through that visual.
That's very cool. Yeah. How do you like look on that now in the moment yourself? If you think about future of like nature is a very wide term, of course, because
Yeah,
you in some way can
it
see
is.
human beings as a part of it. Obviously, we're also just, I think that's actually a very important thing that human beings understand that they are also just a part of nature as a
Hmm.
whole.
Hmm.
Um, but how are your feelings towards how that could look in the future?
I think like as well as like actively doing things that, like no, there's no way to like perfectly do anything,
Mm.
but like being able to own your decisions by knowing the information that you take in and being able to choose what you do with that is just like a right of every person. And so to lean into that as much as possible, like it's only just it's only just a way to feel freer in making your own decisions with the information you know. But I would say instead of, how can I actively go against this to stop this, like actually just connecting with what is already existing now, like just the small things that are already around me, like I hear birds out of my window like every morning when I get up, and just like the small things that remind me of nature, and what that feels like to me, to just like be aware of like my body and feeling less disconnected from myself and my surroundings. I
Mm.
feel like trickles of that build along the way into like finding wells of like deeper connection in other points later on, when being able to just stop and like acknowledge things on a smaller level that can like actually build to like bigger levels of being aware of just nature. I think awareness, like as a word, is
Mm.
just like great to acknowledge in like, especially in times of overwhelm, like having environmental anxiety or whatever, or just having information regurgitated down your throat, like being able to take a step back and not feel dictated by that information, but own it for yourself and what you want to choose to do with that, instead of like push it and avoid it. Yeah, I would just
Mm.
say awareness, like because there's always things I feel like I'm viewing differently in terms of like awareness of nature. Like you said, like sometimes it's through people and sometimes it is through the physical things of nature, of where your local park is, or like what
Yeah.
other things that you didn't know existed in your area that like can just feel like less, like especially if you live in a city, like
Mm.
concrete like can be like, gray is just the like
Mm.
color you see like on a regular basis, and you can be quite desensitized to nature in a lot of ways because of that, and to just know what's like in your area. Like I guess I like to think about that too sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would like if you would fit it into it like a tip or something, then it's like go out and try to consciously see what is around.
Yeah, yeah, go out and like okay, this is what I would say maybe. Like what are you
Hmm.
acknowledging right now, and what does that make you want to connect more with in your area that's closer to you? So whether that's like, yeah, like personally I really like being near water, but I'm not really like a sea person. I'm like more of a like lake or waterfall, and I've wanted to like go to like just like find a waterfall near me, like the closest one, and just go to it and just be around that. Like what's that unique to you? What are you acknowledging right now? What does that bring you closer to in that respect? Yeah.
Well, where is the closest waterfall for you from North London?
I think there's a lake in Kent, I think, and I think
All right.
there might be like something like that there. It's been a second since I've double checked, so I wanted to wait till it got a bit warmer. Um,
Yeah, I get that. So I'm wondering, like, what are like you like built? You said like a year and a half, kinda, to the point of like
yeah,
releasing this now.
yeah.
So that must be like a big like now letting it all go. What are you like extra excited about now? What you're working on, or are you like happy to just let it go and see for a bit what happens, or you
Yeah,
taking a bit of a step back, or what are you looking forward to creatively now?
I just want to like sit in this for a sec, um,
Nice.
and just like enjoy my music as a listener also. Um, and yeah, I
So
definitely want to
important.
spend time like sitting in it properly. And you know, like maybe when I'm out of that, like I'll be looking to other things. But right now I just want to like take in this time, kind of like let let it move in its own direction, and you know, like yeah, just be with it.
Yeah. And enjoy it yourself as well, right? Like I think that's super important and
Mm.
also difficult maybe. I don't know how that is for you, but
Yeah, it is. It can be difficult in terms of like I've always said like I love making music, but releasing it is just like another ball game. And like I'm sure other like independent artists feel very similarly, and just like the bittersweetness of like just
mm,
like there can just be pressures from so many areas. Just like for me, like I feel like an artist, like first and foremost. So like I just want to be creating art regardless of like, you know, like numbers or like hype or virality. Like that's just like not me. So just to be
yeah.
able to sit in something that is like deeply important to me and that I believe in, like I'm experiencing it anyway. So regardless of like things that happen, like this is what's coming out of me. So yeah, like it is an interesting one, like releasing music because I'm doing it. Like why wouldn't I just make music if I'm saying I hate releasing it? But like to be able to have
Yeah.
markers that can like allow me to congratulate myself and the work I've done and the people I've worked with too. Like I don't want to either have to let like the idea of pressures prevent me from, you know, being proud of myself and like other markers at the same time. No, thank you for being part of it and hearing Incomplete Territory and just appreciating everything that's attached to it. But like at the same time, like if it's just like it's here one day and it disappears the next, then like, you know, it's just part of the grooves of it all.
Yeah. But you then still made it for yourself and you still crafted that art, right?
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, we're like slowly heading towards the end of the episode. As said, I still wanna like spin Chemical X after we're saying goodbye. Just to close it off, I'm curious, like, is there one challenging thing in that track that you had like issues with or challenges with, I should say, fixing? And how did you fix it?
Good question. I would say that this song like actually was the smoothest in its creation process of all the ones on the EP, funnily enough.
Really?
Yeah. It just like a lot of things just clicked and like how I wanted to create certain parts. Like there's a whole glitch break in the song, and how it ended up coming together. I was working with a producer, Anne, on that in the studio. And
Shout out Anne.
yeah, and that came together really well. The one song that was really difficult, I will not name, but there was one song on this EP that like was just like all the like worst things you can think of all put into like one experience. Like that was this one song, and like, somehow I made it on the EP, and like I'm really happy with the result. But oof, that one
Oof.
did get me. Yeah. Chemical X,
All right.
very smooth sailing one. Thank
All right. I'll not ask. I will not ask you about the title of that one. But then I'm just curious, like if you have on one side like the tracks that really come out super smooth without issues, and then on the other side you have the ones that are really like a struggle and hardworking.
Yeah.
Which ones do you think are better in quality, and which ones are like most rewarding for you to make?
That's a really good question. I actually don't know how to answer that.
That's also fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like I guess like sometimes there's like the small rewarding moments of like this was really hard to do, but then it managed to happen, and that's like very satisfying. I think like sometimes on difficult releases, like if it's been able to be released, then that's a reward in itself. Like if it's past that this is still good enough to be released, then that's like cool. But yeah, I'd say they've all had different like rewarding experiences. But yeah, I think this last song we're listening to, there's something about Chemical X that just had this match of like some coming from a very like vulnerable source matched with something like very like techy and like in its sensory experience, but also lyrically just very smooth. Like there was something about it that did really like feel like going through a water slide or something. Like it just clicked really nicely. So yeah, it's a cool one to end on for sure.
Nice. All right. Now then, before we dive into that one, I just want to like thank everyone that either watched or listened. Yeah, if you want to check out more about iNKOGNiiTO and their work, make sure to check that in the description of the video or the podcast. All the links are there. Also the ones to the cool I Am an Alien t-shirts. I would say if you have any questions for us or for iNKOGNiiTO, leave them in the comments or on socials, and then try to get them answered for you. And yeah, besides that, please give us a follow wherever you're listening. I know it's begging for follows, but we actually restore 1 square meter of ecosystem for every new follower. So it's literally 2 clicks, and it does really have an impact, and the earth will thank you. Yeah, iNKOGNiiTO, big thanks to you once more for being up for the chat. I really enjoyed hearing your story, and thanks for sharing so much.
Yeah, it's been cool chatting with you for sure. This is actually the first in-person interview or like talk interview I've done, so it's been a cool one to start with.
Yeah, got a good feeling about it.
Yeah, alien to alien.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It had to be that way.
Yeah, it just sometimes it just happens like that. Yeah.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much, and and enjoy Chemical X for everyone listening.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I died the death-colored wish. So slowly, in an intermission. Never need to ask for permission. I'm out of jurisdiction. Slipping away, denial's my own enemy. I don't make it when I'm told everything's to be. Like I can't turn my own life and stop the cycle on repeat. If we can't take control, downwards, downwards. Think about what I forget. Think about what I forget. Think about what I forget. Think about what I expectations. If I can't make it, then I'll root for my annihilation. What's your chosen space that you retrace when things are going wrong? Everybody's got a hidden thing that they are running from. When I speak, if I make it, please do not preach. If I practice, please do not preach. If I cut it all out, stop predicting what I know is merging in my memory. There's too much blood, I'm scared to breathe. Entrapment's not the same as destiny. Too bad I don't believe in destiny.
Fusion can all be a